Hey, welcome back to Lenten Shorts, and I'm David Lee with Christ Church UCC in Bethlehem, PA. And we're walking through the apostles, or at least those that play a prominent role in the last days of Christ. If you didn't catch the last video on Peter, James, and John, hop on our Facebook or Instagram or YouTube to catch up on all this year's shorts, as well as the entire series from last year. So, as promised, it's time to see who this Judas guy really is. And I know you're all thinking, you know who this guy is. He sold out Jesus for some silver, and then he kissed him on the cheek. Well, don't worry, we'll get to that guy, but there's a forgotten Judas I want to introduce to you first. Imagine sitting around a table with 12 other men, and one of them shares your name. Remember, this is long before the time of last names or surnames. Back in the time of Jesus, you were defined by your father, your role in the world, your place of birth, or your actions. So, enter in Judas, son of James. I bet many of you, if not most, have never heard of this apostle before, or at least you think you haven't heard of him. If you're a man of great renown, but share a name with an infamous individual, synonymous with the death of the Messiah, maybe a nickname or another name is in order. So, Judas, son of James, is best known as Jude. In fact, these days, Jude is best known for the missions that have been blessed with his name. Saint Jude. But who was Jude? And why is he not mentioned in all of the Gospels? Well, once again, to back away from any association with the other Judas, the Gospels of Matthew and Mark only mention Thaddeus. So Jude, Judas, Judas of James, Jude brother of James, Judas son of James, and Thaddeus. All these names and titles are thought to apply to only one man. There are some scholars that believe that the author of Luke calls Thaddeus Judas only so that we have a better representation of a Judas in the Bible. After all, the English Judas is the Hebrew Judah, a very common name, then and somewhat now. No one wants to name their kid after the wrong Judas, right? It's just as confusing as you think it sounds, I promise. But the important part to remember is that Judas Iscariot is not the only one who bears that name among the 12. Judas Iscariot. Did I not just mention that in the times of Jesus, people didn't have last names? Seems as though this Judas does have a last name. It's Iscariot, right? Well, remember, we recognize people by their fathers, their status, their actions, or their origin. And many think that Iscariot reportedly is a Greek interpretation of a Hebrew phrase, and that means that a man from Kerioth. So he's from the city of Kerioth. Except, Kerioth translates into cities, not city. And in the Bible, Kerioth refers to two separate areas, Moab and another town just in the south of Judea. Seemingly no one thinks Judas came from Moab, so Kerioth in this sense is probably in the south of Judea. There are other interpretations of Iscariot which point to the word liar. So it's either a place of origin or his status in the world. But who is Judas Iscariot? It's still a matter of great debate among theologians and scholars alike. The only answer I can give you that everyone seems to agree on is that he was one of the original 12 disciples. There are some that believe Judas was also known as a thief. It's quite biblical, too. See, there's a chance that he served as the CFO of the disciples, having been known to carry a money box or bag around. And the book of John does mention that he maybe stole from this box, seemingly caring more about himself than those that were in need. So, was his heart oriented on money more than it was on Jesus? How could a devoted follower be swayed to betray a friend in this way? Was the life of Jesus worth only 30 pieces of silver? It is worth noting that the Gospel of John makes absolutely no mention of these pieces of silver. No mention of really any motive for the betrayal. Could it have been an act of self-preservation? If Judas was a liar, was a thief, or maybe had been before finding Jesus, maybe this was a quid pro quo of sorts. So Judas gives up Jesus, and the authorities overlook his indiscretions, just maybe. So with or without 30 fresh pieces of silver in his pocket, he brings Christ's accusers to the Garden of Gethsemane. But why the kiss? I mean, wouldn't they have known the image of the man they were there to arrest? Of course they would have. Absolutely would have known who he was and what he looked like. But the lack of flashlights or cell phone lights in the garden would have made it very dark. A mistake could have been made, but a kiss on the cheek and the word master, it seals the fate of both Jesus and Judas. So no matter what Judas received as a result of this action, its value wasn't enough to overcome the guilt and self-hatred. Thinking he was the cause of the crucifixion, he took his own life. Take note that I said he thought he was the cause. The fact is, the fate was inevitable. Jesus knew it would come to this conclusion. His purpose in human form was to save humanity from its indiscretions. So yeah, Judas is held in the same regard as Benedict Arnold and Caesar's Brute, but reality points to him being more of a scapegoat. And if we look at the words of Jesus, he counts Judas among the 12 to have their own throne in heaven, no matter his actions on earth. Liar, thief, friend, patsy. That's the Judas we think we know. Join me next time when it's time to look at the two officials that last saw Jesus alive and may have even tried to save his life.